Hello, and welcome to the Wizard's Respite Sanctorum, the show where we dive into all things TTRPG. Today we got a really fun show for the DMs out there. We're focusing on some DM needs. The focus topic is going to be things that DMs would really like their players to do or stop doing. Things that would make their life as a DM a little bit easier. But before we jump into that, let me kick it on over to my co-host, Zachariah. Zach,
Hi,
how are you
everybody.
doing?
Zachariah with Old Man Gaming here. Happy to be here. Happy to be doing the podcast. Podcast has been going strong lately, and I'm excited to talk about this because I love the idea that I can finally tell my players what they need to do.
And now, before we jump into it, let's talk a little bit about where this topic came from.
Sure.
Because it wasn't something that I initially was really setting out to do. I will often get a lot of ideas from what I post on Twitter. We've said millions of times that the RPG community on Twitter is like the island in the sea of madness.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
So I posted the topic actually not asking what they want their players to do, but just what DMs have that make their life a little bit easier. You know, what tools do they use? Where do they store their notes? What tricks do they have? Things like that. And in jest, jokingly, a lot of DMs and GMs out there responded with, "Well, I wish my players would show up early," or "I wish my players would, blah 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 blah." And I just got a trend, and it wasn't mean spirited or anything like that. But a lot of jokes were being tossed around about how they wish the one tool they wish they had was players that would do XYZ. And it made me think, this probably isn't a bad topic to jump into.
As a person who has played a lot of games, who asked for a certain level of commitment from my players and did not get that, I feel their pains. There have been many beautiful games over the years, all of them wrestling based, that if I had just gotten just a little bit more effort from the players themselves, they'd still be around today. So like,
Yeah.
I feel the pain. I feel the pain on that one. Can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah. So I think you and I are going to dive into our top 5 and really get into the meat, and not just, I wish those goddamn players would just do this, but also why.
Right.
Why is it important? Why does it make the game better? Why would those wrestling games still be here if players did X, Y, Z? What would they have done to make it stick around?
Yeah.
Because you do hear a lot about tables disappearing and dissolving after just a few sessions. And sometimes, I don't want to put this totally at the fault of the player or at the GM. Sometimes it's just circumstance. Sometimes
life, man. Life is life. First of all, I mean, unless you're a teenager, in which case I don't think you're listening to this show. Unless you're a teenager,
old guys talking about games.
you're probably, you're at least in your 20s, probably middle-aged or older. You have a life. Like, it's a life. It's one thing that drives me nuts. Sometimes, I play with a guy. I'm not going to name names right now. But I play with a guy who constantly gets mad at people who don't show up or don't get there on time. And it's like, look, we are all married. We have children. We have jobs. Our wives have jobs. Like, things happen, Like, there's just nothing you can do about it, Another thing about it, too, which I've said repeatedly here, is sometimes people forget this is fun. And honestly, I'm going to say a bunch of things in this episode that countermand everything I'm about to say right now, because hypocrite for life. Ooh, that's a good shirt. But at the end of the day, this is recreation. right? Like, unless you're getting paid to do it, unless you are a professional GM or a professional actual player who has a professional schedule, this is fun. This is a recreational activity. This is for entertainment. So while I don't think you should hang people out to dry, that's not what I'm saying, but like, if it's not fun for you, you know what I mean? You shouldn't be going.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this right now. If it's not fun for you, it's not going to be fun for anybody at the table when you go to that table, you know?
Right, yeah.
It's the first thing I think before I get in my car to go to my game session. Am I going to have fun tonight? If the answer is at all no, I'm staying home. And they'll have to deal with it, but I'm staying home. And in fairness, they don't want me there. You know, like if I know for a fact before I even get there I'm not going to have fun, they're not going to have fun, you know, because I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
So like, be a responsible adult, stay home, you know. So
yeah, exactly.
It's okay. Life happens. Like, we're adults, you know.
Yeah, and like you said, it's game day.
Yeah.
Game is the optimal word there.
Right.
And if you not going is gonna derail the game, it's still game. Play a different game.
Right.
You know, if there's enough people that didn't show up because life sucks at that point in time.
Yep.
Because sometimes, you know, it does. Sometimes it's a car breaks down, a boss calls you in, or a red dragon just burns down your village.
Yeah.
You know, one of those things happens in the game. A couple of those things prevent the game.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it goes.
It is.
So, now you did hit on one thing. I want to preface all this hypocrite for life. I will preface. I will say this.
How many strokes are we gonna have tonight?
I know.
It's the
We're
real
doing
question.
this late in the evening, guys. If you listen to this thing all the way through, we love you very much. I will say this.
I love anybody who's willing to listen to me talk for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, so much so that I married my wife. Like, she listened to me the first 40 minutes. I was like, well, gotta marry you now.
40 minutes in.
40 minutes.
This has never happened before. I have
I'm
a ring
usually in
for
a
this
room by
very
myself.
occasion. I'm right there with you, actually. I'm very, very lucky my wife can tolerate me. Or more to the point, she can pretend to tolerate me as I not am aware of the fact that she is bored out of her mind. But I did want to preface... I'm going to,
Stop trying to say it. Yeah, just stop trying to say it.
Gonna say before we get into this, there are circumstances for a lot of things on my list that make this moderately okay, or circumstances that make this extra freaking annoying, or you know, it isn't. These aren't hard, fast rules that are gonna send you to jail. You know, these are things that we as GMs would like to see more of, less of, in a certain manner. Not necessarily we're gonna kick you out of our table. You know, I'm gonna kick you out of my table if you start like throwing crap at people or
getting
being
rude.
just a general. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: are we going like order of importance? Like, is the first one we say the most important annoyance, or are we counting down to our worst? Like, it's up to me, up to you how you want to do it. I know what my worst one is, without a doubt, but it's up to you.
Let's count down.
Okay.
I think we'll build to our number one most annoying thing that we'd like our players to either stop doing or they're not doing enough.
Okay.
But are you ready to jump into our list?
Yes. I think so. I forgot we were doing 5, so like my brain, like the hamster on the wheel in my brain is like, oh, what? We're doing a list? And he's just like fucking running, but I think I can do it.
I'm sure once we get going, man, the lists are gonna you're probably gonna come up with 10 by the end of the night.
Yeah, I know my number one. My number one, without a doubt.
Okay, I'll go first, and I got 5. Maybe this will get that hamster a little bit of a carrot, maybe a little bit of a stick,
yeah, go
maybe
for it.
Just a little bit of a smoke break.
Well, and if you call one out that's mine, I'll just be like, hey, you know, that's my number. This, you know, we can just talk about it then.
Okay.
Because we're both GMs, I can't imagine that we're not going to have some similar ones.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there's got to be crossover, and that's one of the other things. I'm sure folks out there listening to this are going to be like, a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so my first one, number 5. This is a little bit of a tricky one. There's a few caveats to it, but it is engaging with other players
Okay.
more at the table. It's not so much. This is a. I wish they would do a little bit more sometimes. I wish they would do a little bit more in character sometimes. Um, there are certain things I try to do to incite that a bit, like having an NPC talk to all of the characters all at once. But at the end of the day, it's still the characters that need to take on their voice, look at each other, and act like a person other than themselves, talking to a friend who's playing a person other than themselves to get a story going, to get the magic moving. Again, this is my number 5, so it's like the lowest on my list for a reason.
I kind of understand where you're coming from on this one. I think this one is a hard one for players, personally, because I think that like I think we've talked about this on a previous episode, just like you know, like GMs getting too hard on people for the way they communicate in their character voice, and I think that can get real tricky. It's also real easy, like in games where like you're supposed to be deducing something. It's very easy to drop into that like table talk mentality and forget that you're playing characters. And then somehow all your characters glean all this information through osmosis. I think that like it's tricky. It's tricky, right? I like that's the crux of the game, but it is the tricky thing. I think that like as a GM, we should reward players who do. Like, players who talk in character, who strike up conversations, they should get experience points, cinema points, some sort of, like, extra little trinket. Like, things to kind of inspire other people to make those character choices, I think, personally. And you know, I'm a writer of a game, and I don't have it anywhere in there, but I think games could do a better job, too, of putting in the rules, like, hey, if they're using character voices and they're doing great role-playing, here's an extra thing, you know, here's something for them, you know.
Yeah.
But I agree. I would love it if the characters would talk as their characters a little bit more. Sometimes it's very easy to fall out of that, you know.
It is. And, you know, we had mentioned in the past DMs, GMs not being too hard on players to act a certain way.
Right.
And I don't really care how you communicate with each other. I would just love to see, like, even if you're not using the person's voice and talking one-to-one, but just explaining to your character what your character would want or what they would do, you know, as a big picture thing. Your style is your style.
Right.
Just talk to your other players and make a show of it. A little, I mean, like, for yourself. Not for anybody else, not for me, not for the table, but just, you know, really get into the moment with each other.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think that, like, players out there, if you're listening to this, like, this is what I talk about with the whole gamification of role-playing games. That kind of, like, I feel D&D kind of inspires, and some other big games inspire. When you're thinking about your character like a character in a video game, that's a bad idea, man. You should be thinking about pretending to be that person or whatever, you know. And you should try and keep that in mind first. I think if you got a good game master, they're not really going to care necessarily how well you're doing the character's accent, or if you're saying my character is saying this or my character is thinking this versus just saying or thinking it. I don't necessarily think a good game master should really give a shit about that, but I think that you should be putting the effort in to, like, point out how your character's feeling, point out what your character's saying, what he or she would be doing in the moment, you know?
Yeah. If your character, if you just made an awesome joke, go ahead and mention, like, maybe your character elbows, you know, the character next to you, or smirks at another character.
Right.
It helps with the moment, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I completely.
All right, that was my number 5. Like I said, it's kind of the lowest on my totem pole of things I'd want to put on this list. Zach, what do you got?
Okay. This one's going to be lowest on my totem pole because I understand that this requires more effort from players than they're usually willing to put in. And a lot of mine are going to be that. But my number 5 would be when somebody puts out an interactive thing to do between sessions that nobody interacts with in any way, shape, or form. It's very infuriating, especially as a game master who's putting work in. I'm going to give an example of this because this is kind of mercurial in how I'm saying it. I had a wrestling game for a while. A really long time, actually. Like a year and a half I had this wrestling game, and I had a good amount of players, and it was a really fun wrestling game. We would play it threefold. And again, this is me getting overzealous as a game master, and I always do with wrestling games too. It's one of the reasons I kind of stay away from them nowadays, because they would just consume me.
We all have that game that we're not allowed to play.
Yeah, exactly. But everybody would come once a month. We would have kind of like a pay-per-view show. Everybody would get like a match in, and they would be big matches or whatever. Title matches and everything. That was our group session. What I would do, here's what I did. I did it all through Facebook Messenger. And I would literally... So the way the match would work, because none of the guys there were really super wrestling guys. They understood wrestling. They liked wrestling. But like they didn't necessarily know the moves. They didn't necessarily know some of the terms and stuff like that. So what I would do is I would go on Facebook Messenger. I put everybody in the Facebook Messenger. And I would literally create a Facebook Messenger for a show. So like make a show, right? This is the pay-per-view. And then I would type out everything that happens in the show as it was happening while I was game mastering it, basically. So, like, they would roll, I would type out what happened so that everybody could see how the match was going. So if you didn't make it to the show, you got to read it. You got to see it. You got to read it. You got to at least be present with the show. If you didn't make it to the show and you had a match, you could do it through Facebook Messenger with me, and I would write it out. So, like, I literally kind of engineered this system so that nobody had to be there if they couldn't make it, right? I even had a couple of players who never came, who weren't going to come. They even said up front, I'm not going to be able to make it there. And I was like, that's fine. Play through text, right? What I needed, though, we needed to build the matches. We needed to build the story, right? So there was 2 shows in between the big shows. So we only got together once a month, but there was 2 shows in those months. So not even a full like wrestling schedule. There was one show where it would be matches and story building, and then there was another show where all the matches would be announced for the pay-per-view and a very small amount of story building, right? What I would need people to do was read that and interact with that in their characters. The amount of time I had to spend tracking people down and going, hey, I need you to type a post here so that we can build this story. I need you to do this. But I'm sitting there writing a novel every month. And again, it's one of those things where, like, I got overzealous. Their engagement, maybe their willingness to engage wasn't really there, and I just presumed it was. I thought I was doing them a favor. Maybe even though I was putting more work in, I wasn't really doing them a favor. At the same time, though, you know how good that would be if you just once a month put in this text, and every once in a while did a text-based match with me for an hour? Like, how good that would have been, and how good that could have been and lasted and continued, like that kind of thing. Like, yeah, I can't count the number of times I've tried to, and I've stopped doing it. I've altogether stopped doing it because it's the first thing I got into when I was on the internet. Would be like, well, I'm going to make a chat room, and then this will set up things in between stuff, and then nobody ever talks, and nobody ever posts, and nobody ever there, because if they're not there, they don't want to deal with it. Yeah, man, if you got a game master putting that work in, just interact. Just interact a little bit, man. Just a little bit. Just give that little interaction, because it's going to make the experience better on a whole, you know? And this is the lowest on my list because, again, this is kind of a hypocritical one, because I just said if your level of engagement isn't there, you shouldn't be doing it. Like, if you're not going to have fun, you shouldn't be doing it. But at the same time, if you're in it and you're staying in it and you want to be in it, and a game master is putting something like that forward, just interact with it. Just interact with it. There's been so many games where I've tried to do this, and it's so hard. I've ran tons of text-based games. Every time it boils down to every week, me tracking people down, making them type something out. Me tracking somebody down, making them submit their post. And then there would be times where I'd be writing these matches out, and like I realized that people were only ever reading their matches because they weren't responding to anything that was happening anywhere else. So I'm like, well, how are you gonna like, switch fights if you don't know what's happening to that guy? So like, just interact with the interactive things that your game master does for you. Again, decide your level of involvement. Yeah, we love you. We want to play. We just want to make the experience more fun for you, but we can't do that if you don't help us,
Yeah, and that's, I think, what this whole like thing is about overall. Is like, all these things will help us. We love you, Zach. Yeah. You're putting that energy in. I'm putting that energy in. Every GM out there is putting that energy in. We love our players. Show us some love. Just show us a little bit. Just help us out a little bit.
And I get if you don't want to do it. If you don't want to do something, well, that's another one, so I'll save it. But let's just go to your next one before I just immediately start going through all 5.
Okay. So my next one, this is something that I would like to see more. Another one that I'd like to see more from players. That is embracing character growth in all facets of that nature. This is, again, lower on that list.
I know what you're saying now. This is a good one. I don't have this on my list. This is a good one.
This is a desire. This is what I want. This isn't like you're not a bad player for not being good at this. I don't want to say that at all. This isn't a criticism, or this isn't a... I got a couple of like, I want to pull my hair out when this happens, kind of like things on here, but I haven't got to that part on my list. This point on my list is like, this is what I think would make the game more fun. And I think one of these things that would make the game more fun is characters developing and players wanting to see an arc through their character's story, their nature changing, their perspectives changing, growing. They don't necessarily have to change their whole personality or anything like that, but maybe they learn something new. Maybe they get a little bit of growth. Maybe they become a bigger person internally, storyline-wise, more complexity to them. Maybe they do change, Maybe they've overcome a personal trauma or pain or goal that they've had. I feel like that really helps the story. It helps players get into their characters. It helps me as a GM get into their character. It helps me understand them as a player. Like, what do they want? What are they getting out of this? What does their character want? I love seeing character growth. I don't see it a lot. I'd love to see more of it.
I love this one. Baby birds, if you want to be fed, give me a reason, okay? And I will, like, this is the kind of stuff. Again, not naming names, sometimes play with this guy. He has these characters. They have really good, interesting backstories, like really complicated, cool, interesting backstories. Then he starts playing them, and he never changes their character based on what they are. They just stay exactly the same through the entire thing. He's really good at role-playing that one thing, but he never, changes them based on their experiences. It drives me nuts, to the point where I've had conversations with him where I'm like, look, man, why didn't you just do this with this character? Like, why so rigidly stick to this one thing over and over again? And, usually their response is oh, well, this character's a coward, so I gotta play it a coward. I was like, no. They start a coward. What makes them not a coward? Or what makes them more a coward? Characters are a starting point. They're not an end point. And God, I wish so many more players would understand this. And it's one of the reasons I love playing with you guys on Astro Drive, all 3 of you. You fundamentally understand character growth. And whatever problems any of you may have as players, Phil, you, Brian, any of you may have, you all fundamentally understand character growth. And I enjoy that. In just the 30 episodes we played, I would say your characters, all 3 of them, are completely different and have made choices completely different than they would have made on day one. The essence of role playing, the essence of storytelling is the change that happens from page 1 to the last page. Okay, that is the essence of a story. If nothing happens, there's no story. There can be all the gunfights you want in it, but if those gunfights put you in the exact same place and never change anything in between, then you don't have a story. You just have a series of gunfights. Like, I wish more players understood that the essence of a good character is that character changing what they value based on the play. And I'm going to tell you, man, I love nothing more as a game master than when a player does something based on the experiences they've been through in my game differently than what I would have predicted. I mean, I love it, and I love nothing more than when I'm a player, and I can logically say to a game master why my character is doing something different than they expected, based on what they've gone through. And I think, God, I wish more players understood that. I really do. This is not,
To expand on that last point, what you just said, you love talking to your game master about this.
Yeah.
Game masters love this. Mm-hmm. Game masters want you to build this.
Yes.
So talk to them about it. Get down, nerd out about your character a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, they want nothing more than that. If a good game master will be so pleased to listen to you have a well thought out argument as to why they're not running away anymore. Like, they'll be excited about that because they'll feel like they've accomplished something. Game masters only accomplish things when their players change. Like, that's how we win. Like, any game master who thinks otherwise is wrong. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be definitive. I usually am not on here. But if you out there are a game master who are like, I win when they get to the end and the bad guys defeat, you're wrong. You win when a character develops in your story, however that happens. When your experiences have had such an impact on the player that he thinks that it's had such an impact on his character that his character is becoming a different person. That's how you win as a game master. And I wish more players were more willing to make that change. So many of them, and this one in particular, again, not naming names, I think he's afraid of the game master. I think he's got a completely backwards idea that he thinks that, like, the game master's not going to like that he changes something about his character mid-game. And, like, that's what I keep trying to beat into his head. I'm like, I've changed my character mid-game multiple times, dude.
Yeah.
Based on things that happens. The game master loves that. The game master does not want you to just stay the same thing all the time. He doesn't want you to be a token, weird, funny voice through the entirety of the storyline. He wants to see your character change. That's the excitement there,
And it's because you're interacting with the story and your character's interacting with the story that your character can now evolve. That brings your character and the game master closer together. The narrative and your character closer together, and I think that's one of the reasons. That's why I love it when I do see it. When I love it so much at my table, is that evolution means that I've done a good job as a game master. I've given them the tools and everything, and I've listened to them. I've listened to what their characters want to do or what their character's afraid of, and I've supplied the necessary materials for the player to make a story with, a personal arc with. Yeah,
I agree.
All right. So, what's your number?
3?
4?
It'd be 3.
Right? Is it 3?
Because I've done 2, right? Yeah, I've done 2.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
3.
Have I done 2? Have I done 2 or 1?
I think we've just done 1.
Well, you've done 2 at least.
I've done 2. Yeah, that was my second one.
So I've only done 1?
Yes.
You're sure?
Yeah, that was the
interact.
Interact with materials outside.
I didn't do another one after that. Son of a bitch. All right. Feel like I had done more, but that's fine.
You did. I'm trying to remember now.
Feel like I did 2, but I could have just 1 and talked really long and think I'd done 2.
It's been a long day.
My next one is this. All right, that's what I'll say. My next one is this. Players. And this is lower on the totem pole for me. But players, please, 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 just do a little bit of reading, okay? Just a little bit of reading. I don't care. If you're showing up on the first day and you've never played this game and you don't have the book, okay, that's fine. I get it, all right? But if your game master supplies you with the book, okay, and you have the book readily accessible for many weeks prior to the game that you're going to be playing, can you just do a little skim through it? Okay, just a little light reading, just maybe so that you're not complete, like you don't even understand the setting. Like, please, man, please. And this is more so for players who have played the first session and then come back the next time and go, wait, what's happening? How do I play this? What do you mean you don't know how to play this? Like, you now have had the book, you've played it, you've made a character in it. Why are we still having this discussion about how to make an attack roll? Like, please, just do a little reading, just a little light homework, okay? Because, no offense to you, I don't want to sound entitled, but as a game master, I've read or written the book that you're reading. I have created all of the story, all of the NPCs, all of the plot and scenery that you're about to interact with. That didn't just come out of my butt one day, okay? That took hours, time, effort. I am not asking that much of you. Please just read. Just read the material. Just a little bit of it. Just even if you just read what your character does. Super excited. Super excited, okay? Just even that. Just something. I can't count the number of times in 43 years of playing role-playing games that a player shows up to the table and goes, wait, what do these stats mean? What do you mean? What do these stats mean? Okay? You have the book. We live in the world of the internet. Everybody has the book. The entire world has the book. Just go get the book. Like, oh my God. Drives me nuts.
I'm going to go ahead and say, this actually is on my list. I'm going to go ahead and put that next on my list.
Right?
It is such a thing. And like you said, like there's still caveats in there, like you said, first time you're showing up, you don't really understand, especially if you're new to RPGs. Trust me, you get a pass, all right? If I'm a GM, you're at my table, you've never played an RPG before, and you have no clue.
Sure.
I'm not expecting you to read this book and understand it, never being at a game table before. But you've been at my table for like 6 months, and you still don't know how to use your magic spells.
Right.
It's like, come on, man.
Dude. The other thing, and God bless you if you're a DM instead of a GM, a dungeon master in frickin' Dungeons and Dragons. You know how much work dungeon masters have to put in? Like, it's one of the reasons I don't ever play Dungeons and Dragons. Because I would be the GM, and I'd have to put that work in, and no thank you. Like, so you're showing up to a table when this dude has literally architect out a fucking castle for you to walk through, and you don't remember what kind of character, like how to roll an attack. Like, oh man, drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. And
there's again, caveat, like
lower on the totem pole because there's a lot of exceptions to this rule. There's a lot of like, hey, you're new. Hey, you're new to RPGs. Maybe you don't have access to the book somehow. Like, there's a lot of caveats to this. But like, when I was
my sister started playing a wizard, and she's never played one before. All these things, spell slots and everything. She had a real hard time. I knew she was trying.
Right.
I knew she was trying, but she was having a hard time.
Right.
Because it's a complicated class. Everybody understood that. And honestly, I didn't even realize that she was having as hard of a time with that character as she was until she told us because she was trying so hard. Right. But the point is, she was trying so hard.
Right. Right. When I showed up to my first World of Darkness game, I asked, and I decided to play a mage, I asked to borrow the book. I took it home, and I read half of it. Like, I showed up with an idea of what my character was and where he fit into the mythos of the story. Did I get everything right? No way. I mean, those books are hard to read normally, but I at least had a basic understanding of what my character looked like, what he did, how he fit into the story. Like, just do a little homework. Just try a little bit. Those people who just wander in and be like, hey, I'm going to pretend to be a fucking elf for 2 hours. Like, great. Do you know what an elf does?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't, you're useless.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah.
I only have 2 more. I don't remember if I did 2 other ones or not, but I definitely only have 2 more.
Yeah, I think 2 more is good for me too.
All right.
Do you want to do yours next, or do you want me to
Sure.
do my next too?
We kind of did it at the same time, so I can go again. All right.
Okay.
These two are my big ones. As far as I'm concerned, they're my big boys. My biggest one, my second to biggest one would be wait. And are these both 2 together? Oh my god, my brain is just not working. Well, I'm gonna say this one as my 2 anyway, and maybe not have 1. I don't know. No call, no shows. Look, you have a life. You're an adult. If you have to cancel, that's fine. If you have to be somewhere else, that's fine. And I'm not talking about you got in an accident, you couldn't call me or something like that. I'm talking about if you just decided not to come, okay, or something came up, just text me. Just text me. I had a guy who I kind of fell out with because, like, we had a game session and he would say, yeah, I'm definitely coming. And then he would show up 2 hours late or just not ever come. And then be like, yeah, sorry, just had this thing come up. Okay, you have to tell me. All right, just tell me because we're waiting for you. Like, we're waiting for you to show up. Like, it's not that hard. Text me. Just, hey, can't make it. And I think he was afraid that I would get mad. And I'm not going to get mad. I'm just going to be like, hey, okay, thanks for letting me know. Like, just don't not show up. Okay? Like, just don't not show up and not tell us.
Right.
Because it's bullshit. You're ruining other people's experience with it. You're ruining my experience with it. Like, and I don't think there's a whole lot of excuses for it. Like, yeah, medical emergency, other emergencies, stuff like that. You drop your phone in it. Yeah, shit happens.
Shit doesn't happen all the time.
If you're like, I can't make it, and you even 5 minutes before the thing, like you're about to leave and something comes up, just throw us a text. Okay? Let us know you can't make it, and then we'll make other plans. I hate when it's just like nobody ever tells me what's going on, you know?
Yeah, 100%. That shows a lot of disrespect to other people. It's not even just a game thing. Like, that can be kind of like good advice for life, kind of. You know, like just common manners is just something you should bring to the game table and show the people that are all there that degree of respect.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're going to be showing that to you. They're kind of expecting it from you.
Right. This isn't a video game that you just didn't get online for. This is like, we planned this out. There is a get-together. People have taken time from their schedules to meet in a place. Even if it's online, just message. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do my number 1 because it's so closely connected to this. If you don't want to play a game anymore, or you don't like a game anymore, or that game is not giving you fun anymore, tell your game master and walk away. Okay? Don't coward it up and just start no call, no showing, being super late, leaving super early. Like, don't do the, like, make us get mad at you thing. Just man up, tell us you don't want to be here, and you don't have to be here, you know? Same player I had, went through many different no calls, no shows, many different very late arrivals and very early leaves. And then finally, I kind of confronted him. I was like, this is bullshit. You're wasting my time. You're wasting everybody else's time. Like, why? What are we doing? And he's like, well, I don't really like the game we're playing. And I'm like, okay, we've been playing this game for almost a year now. like almost a year. Why wouldn't you say that to me? So literally, you've been just making everybody miserable, including yourself, for this amount of time. Why? Why thought you'd be mad? you think I'd be less mad or more mad that you wasted a year of my fucking life? You know, like on this, like that kind of stuff is so frustrating to me because there's no reason not to. This is a recreation. This is fun. This is everybody's night out. Don't ruin other people's, and don't let yours be ruined. If this isn't the game for you, it's not the game for you. You know what I mean? And I understand the table plays what the table wants to play. But there also has to be a limit. If you really hate the game and you tell the game master, there's a lot of things that can be done. And even if there isn't, find another fucking group. But don't just like keep ruining everybody else's fun here. Does that make sense? I hate, like, this was one of the, like, as far as role-playing games go, I stopped playing role-playing games after this for a really long time. In fact, I would say all the way up to basically when you and I started hanging out and talking again, I was basically not playing role-playing games anymore. Like, I had a couple of sessions here or there, and, played with a couple of people here or there, but overall, like, I was like, nope, not game mastering anymore, not doing the session thing anymore, like, I can't deal with this anymore, and, like, that kind of thing drove me nuts. There was another guy who did it, too, at the same session, and then it just heavily frustrated me, especially when another guy from our group started a session with a different game, and everybody agreed to go there. They went there once, and then they never went to that either, and I was like, I'm sorry that I even brought these gentlemen into your life at this point. Like, yeah. I feel like that kind of stuff drove me nuts. To the point where it put me off TTRPGs for many years until, like I said, now there's been a couple. I did the Axiom thing for Old Man Gaming for a while. I had a couple of sessions privately here and there, and I was in the garage game before I started talking to you, I'm pretty sure. But still, like, now I'm playing a ton of games. I really wasn't for a very long time because of this. And this kind of thing drives me nuts. Just tell your game master. Like, just walk away. Just not even be a man. Just be a human being and don't waste other human beings' time. Be a mature human being. Don't waste other people's humans' times. Like, I hate that mentality.
Yeah, I 100% see that and agree 100%. That hurts. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, somebody saying that they don't want to play at your table maybe hurts a little, maybe. Yeah. Or they don't like the game, sure. Or the vibe, the tone, whatever. But somebody just, like, stringing you along for that long and you don't understand what the problem is, that's where you get kicked in the, wherever it hurts. Right. And that's because it's how much time. So much in.
Right. And it wasn't like it was our first argument either. So there's plenty of openings to tell me before now, before we're this far in, before everybody's really into the game other than this person, Yeah. I think that, like, it just very, very much frustrated me, and I think that, like, I think everybody needs to remember that, like, directness is sometimes the best course of action, and I think at a role-playing game table, a lot of people feel vulnerable. And I understand that because you're kind of, if you're doing it right, you're opening yourself up a little bit. You're kind of showing yourself a little bit more to the people around you, especially if you're doing it online, like we do. You're showing yourself to basically the internet. It can be a very vulnerable, open area, So, like, maybe you feel weird about that. I get that. But at the same time, you have to also understand that other people's time is worth it to them. And when you aren't having fun, other people aren't having fun. Like, when you're late and no showing, you're making other people upset with you. You're ruining your friendship with them. You're ruining your time with them. And, like, we only have so much time on this planet. Don't waste it making yourself and other people's miserable. Be direct. Be like, hey, this is the way I feel. This is how it is. How are we going to move forward? Because I'm going to tell you, at least for me, I will respect you way more as a friend if you do that,
Yeah. 100%. 100%. That's a good one. That's a real good one. That's another good, like, one that's not just games. That's also
Yeah.
kind of life lesson sort
It
of thing.
is. It is. It
Yeah,
is.
anything you're invested in with a person, like that's a good life lesson kind of thing.
Every
Which is one of the reasons why I feel like RPGs are something I've gotten so much involved with again
but
in my
say,
life.
all good lessons, all good life lessons come from role playing games.
Kind of, yeah. It's like
New
life
T-shirt.
maximized in practice.
I'm on a roll today. New T-shirt.
There we go. Actually, that is a pretty good one.
No, I'm on a roll. I'm writing them down on a note card.
All right. So my final two. Okay. So take notes is my second to last. And I don't mean like, okay, caveat, like just like so many of these we've had before. I'm not expecting you to be like, a professional typist or anything like that, and be able to have exactly memorize everything that has happened in the last game. But, if you get a piece of loot and then, a couple of games go by and we find out that you have no idea how this magic key works, even though it was clearly described, it'd be like, that's kind of the MacGuffin here. That was real important. You just spent the last 6 months finding this magic key, and now you don't know how it worked. Somebody needs to take better notes.
As a game master, I am never... Oh, man. That would have been one. I should have put that one on there. Take notes. Take notes, players. Take notes. That should be one right there, yeah.
It's not like you have to have you're not going to get everything. I think is super important is not always going to get across to my players. They're not going to take notes on everything, that every NPC, every gumdrop, every whatever, and some of those things are going to be way more important, and maybe I didn't hint them well enough, blah 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 blah, whatever. But there are certain times when players are they have no notes. They have not scratched anything down. Things that are very obvious, like been said multiple times. They know it's obvious. But then like we get back together, they haven't written anything down. They don't know where they're going. They have no motivation because they don't have any context because they didn't take notes.
Yeah. Notes, baby. Notes. I write a novel. The first thing I do before I come to a new session, I go to Family Dollar and I buy a freaking notebook. Because that's my new notebook for this character, and everything goes in it. Like, I mean, it's illegible, and very rarely do I glean any information from it later. But you gotta take notes. And also, Game Masters, avoid MacGuffins. I can't count the number of... I stopped using them. I can't count the number of times people are like, what's this piece of shit? And then threw it in the trash, and then I'm like, oh my god, I don't know how you're going to fight the demon now, because that's like 2 states away. Like it was definitely like... But yeah, the notes, man. If you're a player, just take some notes. Or have a general idea of what happened in the session prior,
Yeah, general idea. That's all you need.
One nice thing, too, about recording them and putting them on the internet. It's like, I'm going to say this right now. I try to take notes for Game Master stuff, but like every time we go to play, I just listen to the last episode.
You're recording your notes.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm just going to listen to that. I'm going to take an hour. I'm going to listen to that so I know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah. That's what that guy's name was? Oh, good, because I came up with him in the last freaking minute.
Astral Drive is big. Like, I get to Astral Drive Day, and I'm like, I got to listen to that. I have no idea. This guy's going to do this. I got to make sure. There's been a couple of times, too, where I'm like, I'm about to make a big plot twist, and I'm like, wait a second. Have I done something in the last... Because we've been playing it for so long now that I'm afraid, because it's on the internet. If we're playing it privately, I can be like, oh, this is happening. And people be like, wait, what? And then I can be like, yeah, because this happened. And they just believe me. But this is on the internet. So if I have a continuity break, like it's going to be very clear and present. And like, so I'm always afraid that I'm going to be like... oh, this is this guy's name, and it'll be like, somebody will be like, Smash cut to 4 episodes ago when it was, this completely different name, stuff like that.
Okay, and then a final, number one, this drives me up the wall, things that I really love, or this is a stop slash love be more of, but really a stop. Please don't
Okay.
do this at my table. Um, please show your fellow players respect.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they're in the moment, if they're doing something, if their character is having the Hail Mary moment, or their character
Yeah.
is having an emotional moment, or their character is talking to an NPC back and forth, listen to that character.
Yeah. This is
Listen
a
to
good
that
one.
person. Um, this is a game where this is a collaborative game. Everyone's playing. It's not just the GM and you on unless it's like a one-on-one table, which
Yeah.
we're not. It's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a group of people.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story that they're working on. And you should be involved, to a very least some degree in everybody's character, because your character is in literally within the context of the story involved with these people.
Yeah.
They're depending on them for their lives. They're adventuring together. They're doing whatever together.
This is such
But
a
more
good
to the
one.
point, it hurts, man.
Yeah.
Like if you're having like a really moment, and then a couple of people are just talking about whatever, making jokes, being loud, and it's a really big moment for your character. That kind of is like distracting. It pulls both the character and the GM out of it.
Yeah.
Don't do that to these people. Don't do
Yeah.
that to your fellow player.
Yeah.
You have your moment to shine. Let them have their moment to shine, or whatever.
And
Have
let
some
the tension
compassion
be. You don't have to break it. Like, let the tension be. Sometimes tension is required.
Yeah.
This is such a good one. And I'm not going to, like, there are people who I play with now who break this sometimes. And I think this is a great one. One of the core things that I have gained from my time with TTRPGs is empathy for people who are different than me. And the only way I've gleaned that is by pretending to be people who are different than me. And the only way to do that is to create a vulnerable space where everybody kind of opens up and maybe even like vents some of those prejudice and stuff at the table. Not necessarily prejudice, but you see what I'm saying, like different thoughts and viewpoints. And that's how you can kind of get to the core of that empathy, how you can kind of come to understand maybe a little bit of what somebody else's plight is. You can't do that if you're not in that safe space, because then nobody's being vulnerable, nobody's opening up, no one's trying to have those moments. And like, I am a little bit older. I have a lot less care about what people think about me nowadays than I used to when I was younger. I tend to just not really give a shit most of the time. So I just do it. I just bowl through it anytime anybody's making a joke. Anyway, if I'm trying to do something emotional, I'm going to do that emotional thing, and everybody else can be damned. But not everybody can do that.
Right.
There's a lot of people who are new to RPGs. There's a lot of people who don't quite understand what that is and are trying to understand what that is. They can't do that if you're making poop and fart jokes while they're trying to like have a moment. And the other thing is too, and I think that a lot of TTRPG, well, not a lot, I don't want to say a lot, but like a good amount of TTRPG players that we're talking about have a hard time being in that like you go there to have fun, but you have a hard time being sad for your fictional character. You have a hard time being mad for your fictional character. But that's kind of the point. The whole point of this exercise is to be somebody else and to see something else and to see a world through somebody else's eyes. You can't do that by just being happy all the time or being excited all the time. You also have to be sad and mad when they are. And I think that like, to do that, the essence of doing that is you have to create that space where like everybody can be in the moment. There's nothing wrong with the moment. There's nothing bad about the moment. Let it be there, whatever it is. Let that player be there and see where that player takes it, because that player's trying to create something. They're throwing something out there. They're bearing their soul, if it will, to be a little bit too poetic in this moment. But like, you can't do that. You can't do that with jokes and shit. You know, there was a character that I really wanted to play, and I couldn't do it. I mean, some of it was because of the game, but another part of it was because of the other characters in the game. Just everything was funny or silly or stupid, whereas I'm trying to play a character and be in the moment, and I just couldn't. I hated that game. I ended up not playing that game anymore because of it, which was fine. I just switched sessions, but like that was a moment. I created this character who I really wanted to try and like do something different with the character, you know. I couldn't do that because of the atmosphere around it, and I think that like that is a good one. That is a really good one. You got to remember that, like, as much fun as this is also kind of like can be transformative, but it can't be if you don't let it, you know.
Absolutely.
Even cracking open some beers and playing D&D with your friends, you got to let yourself have some emotions, you know. If it's going to be therapeutic, you've got to let yourself have emotions. You've got to let other people have emotions.
And to that note, you know, I've said so many times the most like important tool I've had as a GM is empathy. You know, just understanding for my players, just understanding what they want, listening to them, actively listening to them. But it's not just the GM's job to be empathetic to the players. It's the players' job to be empathetic to each other and to their GM, and to actively think about the other player and the thing that they are trying to express and work with them and play the game with them. So yeah, that was my big one. Showing compassion and empathy for your fellow players and being involved in their moments as much as you are in yours.
Yeah,
is my number one. Like, this is my big. Gotta do this. Please do this. This is what these games are. This is what makes these games so beautiful.
It really is. It really is. It really is.
Well, I think we have ran through our list here, Zach.
I think so. We got a good episode, I think, out of it. Even given the sleepy Zach.
I'm right there with you. I think this was a good show, despite, you know, various challenges that we walked into here. Before we head out this evening, do you have anything you want to plug?
I have a lot of stuff coming up, both on the video game side and the TTRPG side on Old Man Gaming. I think the biggest thing coming up that I'm excited for is I am doing an interview show, both for my channel but also for Wizards Respite, where I am interviewing people about their favorite character, maybe an interesting character. The show is going to be both on Spotify and YouTube. It is going to be called Let's Start With Their Name, and I've already recorded 2 episodes. Once I record 3, I'm going to probably put a release date for it, but I'm very excited about that show because it's a lot of fun, and I love interviewing people, so I've always wanted to kind of do an interview show. I mean, some of my podcasts have had interviews in them before, but this is going to be like a standard interview thing, so I'm kind of excited about it. And then the other thing I want to plug is I am officially, I think, a family friend at this point.
Oh.
Yes. I don't know if she listens to the show, but I got the friend request. I was so excited. I'm like, I'm official.
Yeah,
I'm official. I'm not just his friend that he rants about sometimes. I'm not just his work friend.
my wife popped up the other day and was like, "Hey, Zach just popped up in my you might know this person feed. Would it be weird if I friended him? I feel like I know him from all that you've been talking about."
It would not be
like,
weird.
No, Zach's a great guy.
I had to fight back the urge to post something to her immediately because I was so excited. I was like, "Oh my god!" I didn't even know what she looked like. I don't think I've ever seen her, so I was like, "You've talked about her a ton, but I've never like seen her." So I was like, Shay, and then I obviously said the last name, and I was like, Shay. Oh! I got so excited about it. So yeah, family friend, official family friend.
There we go.
This guy.
Okay, for me, I'm of course plugging the wizardsrespite.com. That's where all of these episodes are. All the things that Zach is doing here on the his channel. also gets broadcast. All the RPG stuff gets broadcast on the wizardsrespite.com. And I'm also we talked a lot about it this episode. I'm doing t-shirts. We're doing t-shirts. I'm wearing one right now, as always.
I'm not. It's cold in my house.
Zach has several designs up there. Old Man Gaming's also up there. Please go check those out. Very much would appreciate it. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you everybody for listening, and until next time, keep rolling them dice.